In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Akkerman Akkerman Blauw. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Now, if you're interested in blue inks, there is a link to that playlist down there that you can check out. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, just a little bit, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 14 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both don't really show. The medium shows the tiniest bit of color variation, the extra fine shows none. We're really not getting it. The smear test, there's a maybe you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pelikan M800 with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 24 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 51 seconds to dry. Wow. The scrubby for both show no color variation, we don't get it, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And I'm going to tell you, looking at this, I expect a ton of shading from this ink that I know I'm going to be disappointed in because I've already done the writing samples. We see this light purple at the bottom. It is forming a very light line and moving its way up, and then we get a very nice blue and a turquoise all the way at the top. This is a very nice mix for a very plain blue. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked in the water, and that purple really is forming much more of a line at the bottom, starting to give the idea that maybe there's a little bit of resistance. It pushes up very lightly. You see some of that blue, but then that turquoise again at the top. So there is the chance of a little bit of resistance for this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 12 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation. We don't get any, and the smear test you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it does get a little washed out. It does get a little bit of spread and some feathering that occurs, but you can read all of the information, meaning you could use it in a note-taking situation. I just wouldn't personally because I don't like how that looks. Water's reactivating and lifting the blues and leaving where you see some of that purple still there from the chromatography, the part that was holding out. Now, as is the case with all of the Akkerman inks, it really only took water to get this out of my pen. Pen flush is completely removing it from the paper. You see a lot of the white of the paper coming through. You're not going to need it. Like you're not going to need the 1/3 bleach solution that completely obliterates this ink. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Now the extra fine is showing some color variation, but we don't get it. The medium shows none, and we got none. And the smear test, there's a maybe. You could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's Akkerman Blue has a viscosity of 2.72, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests are done and all of that, there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on Word notebook paper. We do see a lot of bleeding very heavy in, most notably here at the top, which I believe is going to be a stub. Now with that, it's not touching the page underneath, but you cannot use the back of the page with this or with the others, really. There's good and bad to it, but it's a pocket-sized notebook, so I think this could be acceptable. Now, I was wrong, it was a medium, I just didn't remember. The medium has feathering in the whole of Akkerman. It's tiny feathering all over. It gives it a slight bit of a blurry look. It does spread to about a broad with no halo sheen and no shade. The extra fine is a little lighter than the medium. It has really tiny feathers, gives it just a little bit of a woolly look, like in Jumps or in Quick. It does spread to about a fine with no feather spread, or sorry, no halo sheen and no shade. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation. We're not getting it. And the smear test you could recover because you're not going to smear it. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman Blue has an average dry time of 24 seconds, meaning it takes a bit longer than normal to dry. The last writing sample is done on 28-pound copy paper. We do see some bleeding heavy in with the medium at the top. It's not too bad on the extra fine, a couple of spots. Of course, the scrubby comes through. With the extra fine, you could easily use the back of the page. The medium, I don't think you could. None of them touch the page underneath. The medium has a ton of feathering all over it. It does not spread and no halo sheen or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the medium. It has tiny feathering, not the end of the world considering you're using fountain pens on less than perfect paper for it. It has no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation. We're not getting it. In the smear test, you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman Blue, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a very nice pink from Sailor Dancer Pink. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description, there's links to different color playlists that you can check out. So what do I think of Akkerman's Akkerman Blue? This is a good standard blue. And good news, if you buy a bottle, you get lots of it. I can see this as a go-to for lots of people. But as I've said before, in the sea of blue inks, I'm not sure this is one I get a bottle of. Besides, I already have a bottle of blue from them. I have their Shocking Blue. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Short and simple, it's a dealer's choice because this ink always looks good. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Noodler's Turquoise Eel.